Welcome to the All for Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello, story changers, and welcome back to another episode of the Isolation Inspiration Interview Series. Our next guest in this series is Suzanne Grant. Suzanne is an intuitive business and human design implementation coach. She teaches female entrepreneurs who dream of feeling in total and complete alignment with their heart-driven business by helping them learn how to use their intuition and gut instincts to create a life and business that makes their heart sing. She is also an international #1 best-selling author. At the early age of 17, Suzanne was diagnosed with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, after years of neglect and abuse. Now, exactly 17 years after her initial diagnosis, she is sharing with us how she rewrote her story. In this interview, you will learn the surprising link between your gut and mental health, the difference between what you've been told to want and what you actually want, to stop using busyness to run from yourself, and are you ready for the inevitable change after coronavirus is over? You're going to learn this and so much more in this interview with Suzanne Grant.
The real change began when I left home at 17, and through different channels I got support with what was going on at the time, and I was diagnosed with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder because of what happened in my childhood and the abuse and neglect I experienced. And right before the final exams that we have in the Netherlands, I left home to get mental health support, and also well with the physicals, because at the time I had a lot of allergies as well, which hindsight now turns out to be a gluten intolerance. But 20 years ago, people were not as familiar with the concept as it is now. That was quite a massive turn of events in my life. And that's basically where the plot thickens and the story begins. So what happened at the time, like I said, I left the abusive home where I was staying to, basically survive, because at that time I felt like I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna hopefully live by myself. So in the time I ended up being homeless for about 9 months. Luckily, I did have friends I could stay on their couch, so I wasn't homeless as in on the street, but homeless still with food to eat and a bed to sleep in, gladly. I did pass all my final exams at that time, so that meant, as I'm from the Netherlands, I could start university as well. And I got help with the current situation, where then I came to have the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD for short. And at the time, the psychologist I was seeing, she, after a few weeks, made the remark that she couldn't help me anymore. I was beyond help. And that was it. 18 years old. Done. Well, for me, because I am me, that was an acceptable answer. Because I'm like, come on, I'm 18 years old. How can my life be possibly over? So, hindsight again, she should have told me if I was beyond her help, her level of support, not that I was beyond help. So there was just a small word that should have been added. So I continued my search to find what works for me, because of the combination of the food allergies and nutrition. I don't know how much you know about it personally, or people
I'm gluten
listening.
intolerant, actually.
Oh,
So
see,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
There is such a connection that we know now, between gut health, mental health, and for a woman as well, for period health. There, we got taught when we were younger that it's just the brain and that's, all the processes is run. But as you know, research continues and things develop. Turns out that your stomach, your digestive tract plays a massive role in your mental health as well. So as I tried to recover at that time, you start trying out different things. So from a psychologist, I ended up having to go through another two before I got my fourth psychologist, and he was really good, and we really made progress. That I was like, finally someone who gets it. So if you're listening and you've had a psychologist like mine said, nope, can't do this, you're beyond help, just reframe it to you're beyond that person, that they can do, not no one else is out there, because how many people are now, 8 billion?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
There must be at least one person, if not 10, that can help you on your current quest. For me personally, it was tied in with my food allergies. My PTSD at the time showed itself that I wouldn't sleep more than, give or take, 3 hours per night, which started around I was 14 and it finally settled around 25. So around, say, 10, 11 years, I didn't sleep more than 3 hours. I just could not sleep. Because either was too busy or anxiety or whatever was going on at the time. I just did not work. Well, for anyone, if you maybe have small children or you've gone without sleep for a long time for various reasons, I'm sure we can all agree how important sleep is. So that started to have its effect. And then I went to university in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and I remember one morning I was on my way to class, and because my short-term memory was so shattered, one, it was really difficult to study, but two, I remember being a Dutchie, you have your bike, crossing the street, and I remember looking to from right to left, see if the car was coming. I registered there was a car coming. I stepped in front of it anyway, just because my memory was just. That was for me the moment I decided, okay, something's got to change. So luckily, I did see it on time, jump back, and everything was fine. But it was just for me personally a moment that's like, nope, can't do this anymore. And with the help at the time I was getting as well with the allergies and the recovery of just my physical health, we started with different things, from different fruits to one, if you say yourself you're gluten intolerant as well, avoiding things that you're allergic to, that does wonders for your health to begin with. And then also measuring things like your blood work or other ways for vitamins, minerals, to see what was short. And for me, what I was chronically short on was magnesium. And if you look to what magnesium does for your body, one, it helps you with sleeping. It's with skin. It's with menstrual health for women. It's for muscles, for physical exercise. Just to keep moving. It's such an important mineral. It's crazy. Thinking back now, but how I survived, I really don't know, because I was this close to being done. But just finally being able to get what I needed personally for my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health, that finally was able to, drop the chronic from the PTSD, which only I realized that after the birth of my daughter, because I was a podcast guest. It was about 5 years ago now. And I was talking to Sarah Keane. She had a traumatic childbirth and she got PTSD because of that. So we were talking about the differences between her PTSD, my PTSD, the triggers, and how that can help other women who went through the same. And I remember thinking after that podcast, if we can fly to Mars, I should be able to heal my PTSD, right? Like on the on the scale of things. And for me, again, that was the moment that I basically opened up to the possibility that there was something out there. And I went through theta healing, if you're familiar with that. But that's, again, it's with brainwave activities and different techniques to help with that last aspect of the mental triggers that I still had. And that for me was the final key, that the PTSD just cleared. And that's 17 years summarized in just a few minutes. But yeah, that's the short version of the PTSD clearing itself through my my help, of course.
Yeah. I like to go right back to the beginning of your account, Suzanne, and your decision to escape. And I think a lot of people listening to this have a situation that they want to escape, not nearly as dramatic and stressful as yours was. But there was something in you that clicked and said, now is the time that I'm going to take action on this. What do you think was that impetus and that spurt that made you do it at that moment, as opposed to doing it in the past or putting it off for longer?
The moment I made the decision to go, it's clear as day. I actually did plan it because of otherwise you easily get the label as runaway teenager who's just misbehaving and that kind of stuff. Of course, there was a bit more going on than people could see, and they look in from the outside, so to say. But as I said, with my PTSD at that time when I decided to leave, I already haven't slept for about 3 years. So my grades started to drop. And I mentioned to one of the teachers, I just needed help with this. It was that simple. It's just because I know myself. I know who I am. I knew that then. I knew that now. But it was just, I was just not managing. And the teacher said, well, they had, I'm trying to translate it, but the Dutch version is also lost on me, so the translation isn't really working. But when you get really stressed for a test, when you crash with and get a blackout kind of thing, fear of success, fear of failure, stage fright, that kind of you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of stage fright is probably closest.
Performance anxiety. I think that's the better word. Yeah. Well, it doesn't translate completely, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I went home to talk about, because obviously my parents had to invest in that, and I was talking to my mom. It's like, yeah, you just need to stop complaining and just go to sleep. I'm not going to pay for something like that to help. Which for me was like the final straw. I just collapsed, and I remember just running into the street, just thinking, the first car that hits me, just kill me. I'm done. I'm done. Just take me, and I'm over it. And for the next 15 minutes, there are no cars. Nothing. And it's the busiest street in the neighborhood, and there's just nothing. Absolutely nothing. So it's like, okay, universe, point taken. So the decision I made in that moment is that it wasn't fair on myself to make a decision. If I wanted to leave, I'm all for free. Right? If you want to go, by all means go. It will hurt the people that you love most, but if you're done, you're done. That's your right, and I always felt that way. And just that moment, I was just. It wasn't fair to make that decision after 17 years of misery and not experiencing any good stuff. So I made the decision then that I at least live another 17 years, or the half time, double the lifetime, and then make my decision. And it's actually this month is exactly half a lifetime ago. So exactly, maybe even on the week, but it's that this is the moment I need to reevaluate and say, look, do I still want to go? And I can tell you, it was worth the last 70 years, but it was not subtle, to say the least. So it's that moment I made that decision to at least give myself, a try to, besides the negatives, also experience the positives and then weigh up my decision instead of just being stuck in all that misery and say, I can't do this. I'm not worth living, or I'm not worth it, or whatever story you tell yourself when you're going through something as dark and heavy. And that's the moment I left. And because, of course, the teacher offered that help the next day, they should talk to your parents about it. Well, I just collapsed, and I was like, so he took me to his room because he was what's the word in English? I think it's dean, the head of the department. Also, he had his own little office, and I think I spent there like 3 hours crying, just telling everything that was going on and how I was not okay, and all my friends were like, where is she? Because of course I was missing all these classes and no one knew where I was, and the teacher was also suddenly missing, so I was like, this is weird. But because, of course, just that simple question of him, oh, did you ask? Obviously that just opened a whole can of worms of everything that was going on. And because the way the Dutch system is set up, they do have some level of support available. It's not as comprehensive as it may should be if you're talking about mental health, especially in teenagers and the things they struggle with. But there was help available through school as well. So that started a whole journey, and then it was a few months later, it was around my schoolwork where my parents started to freak out, because obviously they noticed the drop in grades as well, but it was just, oh, you're being a teenager, you're not working hard enough. They didn't comprehend that the whole situation for me was just way too stressful, with not sleeping, not being able to eat or keep anything in. If I ate it, because if you're gluten intolerant, you've had your fair share of misery if you eat the wrong things. So yeah, for me at that time, soy is also one of my allergies, and
me too. Got
you
no
know,
tolerance
oh,
for that.
we're like soul brother
They
and
seem
sister
to
anyway.
cluster, don't they? These.
Yeah, so at that time, my sister decided to become vegetarian. So of course the soy came in. Yeah, so every night I was just throwing up.
Oh, I'm not that bad though.
No, but soy is for me instant.
Yeah.
It's I will spare everyone the details, but it's not good. It doesn't work for me, and I just need to know. But for me, things that really work well is like vegetables, fruits, especially seasonal, locally, that kind of stuff. Is just that old-fashioned diet what we would have been eating, 100, 200 years ago. That works for me. I've got no problem with that. It's just all the processed stuff. for whatever reason, my body just does not take it. And especially in the Dutch culture, you wake up and you got your bread, of course, either with Dutch cheese or with hagelslag, the chocolate sprinkles you may have heard. Well, you got things, of course, for lunch you do more bread. Well, suppers are pasta or rice or potatoes. Well, potatoes don't resonate with me either. Well, what's left in the end, is I understand that was, as a parent, how confusing that must have been, but I knew what felt right. So there should have been some co-creation, to say at best, between the doctors and myself, and just to figure out what was for me. But 20 years ago, gluten intolerance, milk intolerance, soy allergy, it was like, what? Because they put me on antibiotics the first 6 years of my life, because of the things I had going on in my lungs at the time. Yeah, and then at the time I was 6, my digestive tract didn't work. Yeah, nowadays most people understand the connection when you kill off all the bacteria in your digestive tract, because that's effectively what you do as an antibiotic. You also kill all the good stuff. So that's where probiotics, that kind of stuff, come in. But because that was early 90s. That's a world foreign concept, of course. So tie that all back in. By the time I was 17, there was barely anything left of me. I don't know what it is in pounds, but I'm 1.80 m, and I was weighing 46 kilos at the time. So I was lighter than I was when I was 12, I think.
Yeah. What's that? That's 6 feet.
It's 5'8" in
is
inches.
it? How many centimeters was it?
180.
180.
I think it was 5'8", and kilos.
Yeah.
I don't know how much about it. Well,
and then kilos is 2.2 pounds. That's like 90 to 100 pounds. That's very light. Yeah,
not enough. No.
Yeah.
No. So there was barely anything left of me. And of course, being a teenage girl, you get, you must have anorexia. No, I just can't eat food. Everything hurts when I eat it. So if it hurts, why would I eat it? Yeah, people didn't get that at the time, but long story short, when I finally had the freedom just to listen to me, to listen to my body, to listen to its guidance, that's when things started to heal. That's also when, I was able to digest the food. I was able to, get the magnesium in, and for anyone who's, struggling with sleep, the way I do it now still is just do magnesium baths. If you think you might be short, up until last week we always got our bags at home bargains. I don't know if they still do it, but if in the UK, it's a good place to start, and just try it and see. Make sure you drink enough water, and the impact has made on my health just to have my magnesium levels up. I think we're already like 50% there, and it's just crazy when you think about it, how little people actually know how good our bodies are designed to feel. And we get so stuck in a pattern, and often also taught through parents or family members or people close to you. It's acceptable that life is me. And for me, that doesn't work. I like the excitement of life. I like to try things. I also like my alone time. So it's finding that balance, finding that sweet spot. But it needs to be aligned with what works for you. And no one else can tell you what works for you but you. And I don't think it's a skill. Most of us get taught. And that's what I do in my business. I help other people mostly female entrepreneurs, where I do have a few men sleeping through the cracks, so to say. But they they help based on who you are, what you want, what you desire, to create the life you want. Because thinking about it, I don't know if you've experienced that or have known friends who've had that, but when you're born into a family where you're expected to take over the family business, for example, if that's not what you want, do you go against it? Do you do it anyway? Do you do it anyway and then just do it really crappy so they don't want you anymore? So what's the role you're gonna play? And with so many things that we think we want or should be doing, or it's not really what we want at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how do you find out?
Yeah. I always look
That's right.
for patterns in people's stories and experiences, and I noticed a parallel in yours, and I don't know if it's something that you've thought about. You were talking about this situation where you run out onto the streets and you're just looking for a car and you can't find one. And I thought about what you said earlier when you were crossing the road and you looked and you saw the car and then you went anyway. Do you think those two situations are linked at all?
Ooh. Not that I know, but I can see the point you're making. At the time, I know, but the second one, that was just me just being so extremely exhausted that I just made a mistake, which was almost fatal. That's one of those oops crap moments you can't turn back if that goes wrong. But I don't think that was my soul trying to kill me off anyway, years after the fact, kind of thing. So no,
I thought that might be the case, but
you pay attention. Good.
Again, I'd like to take things back a little bit to this first doctor who says, "You are beyond help."
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, when they heard that, especially given what you'd faced already, would have just given up and thrown the towel in.
Yeah.
Why do you think you didn't give up?
Oh, I think it's part of who I am. It's I'm really good at seeing possibilities where no one else thinks that I are. I'm really good at reframing situations. I'm really good at going for something that everyone else goes, "No, you shouldn't do that," and then still succeed. So it's that little voice that for me is my intuition that I have. When things don't add up, my body feels awkward. There's that feeling if it's really big, but it's just that, yeah, it feels uncomfortable, and the way she said it made me feel like this is not the whole truth. And it wasn't until years after I realized what she should have said, because the way she was helping me was a technique called EMDR, which I think is eye movement, this something repetition.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, it's either with eye movements or with sounds, and she did it with sounds. And if there's one thing that annoys me, it's ticking, like a clock or someone with a pen. And then you need to go into the trauma, and it's like, no, it just, no, not for me. But obviously with trying to then work through the trauma, because my childhood as a whole was traumatic with peak events. So it's not like if, for example, a soldier, or you've been in an accident yourself, that moment is so traumatizing that I keep having flashbacks, or with the sound you respond again. It's just that moment, and EMDR is brilliant for that one. if that's, your peak moment. But I just had a lot of small peaks, which made it really big for me. But EMDR didn't work for that, or the way she did it, at least. So hindsight is a wonderful thing, of course. With what she knew as a psychologist, with what I was experienced, it just didn't match. So like I said, the way she phrased it to me is like, your PTSD is too chronic, we can't help you. No, I could not accept that at 18 my life was over. I just no. I just no. It's never too late, and it's just never too late. There's always hope. Even Pandora's box at the bottom, there's always hope. There's a reason why that story is there. There's always hope. There's always a way. It's just finding that bit within yourself that's willing to believe that even beyond anything you think is possible, there is, option B, that they might be able to create some shifts.
You've talked about this process of clearing the mind and working through the PTSD and some of the stages in this journey for you. Is there anything that you can share, that things that helped you in this process that you can share with us today?
Well, besides the practical stuff of, like I said, the magnesium, the baths,
I mean, was that what you found helped a lot? Because that could be the answer.
That's where it started. It's just after the birth of my daughter, a lot of triggers came up again because, for anyone who knows, they have children, they know you're basically available 24/7. And with my PTSD, you just need time to decompress, and it was manageable, but it wasn't done. It wasn't finished. It wasn't over yet. And that's when, for me, theta healing came in. I had a practitioner here in Scotland, and she specialized in PTSD. Coincidence, of course, because she was in an airplane heist, I think the word is in English, a kidnapping when she was like 8. So that was for her the whole start of PTSD journey. But yeah, of course, for her the theta healing was as well. So for those of you watching, who think theta healing, what? But yeah, theta healing. Theta is one of the brain waves. Our brains functioning, and through the meditation and the techniques they use, you can basically rewire the way your brain connects the dots. Very simply explained. And for me, that was just the last bit that needed twisting to bit. And of course, I'm now a mom of 2. I'm currently without a babysitter. Still have my own business to run. My husband is still at work because he's a field service engineer doing microscopes in the whole of Scotland. So
he must be the busiest man in the world. Just
the whole team is. So it's you still have your challenges, but I feel they fall under the normal. If you get triggered, it's just because you've had enough, not because you had such a traumatic childhood. And that's it's just nice when you lose your shit because you just had enough. It's like, it's because I'm normal. It's just because any parent who just had enough would feel this way, and that's okay. And that's it's okay not always to be okay. I think that's also a big one, especially if you have young children. So often, it's okay just to sometimes just crash. Just accept it. It's okay. Really, it is. It's just, what do you do But then, because obviously you hit a boundary at some point, you hit something upon yourself, and for example, I can't do the 24/7 motherhood thing. That's just not for me. I love my kids. I love spending time with them. I love teaching them all kinds of bits, but I also just need some time for me, for to do work, just to be outside, to see with friends, and it's um, especially if you're talking about cultural conditioning and that kind of stuff. Um, but I also mentioned a bit earlier, the things you want, are they really yours, or is that because you're taught that you should be wanting those things? And that's where it gets for me interesting, and that's why I do what I do, and I love my business and what I do and how I help people. It's just really exploring that your own boundaries, your own desires, your own wishes, and yeah, what makes your soul sing? What makes you happy? And then are you doing it enough? Or it's like, I love to paint, I just never do it. Yeah, that's maybe a cue, that it's time for some shifting. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about because I can see your laugh.
Yeah. I know it in myself and also see it in other people as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, once you notice the patterns, yeah. I don't know. I just think it's fun. It makes life interesting. Yeah. For me, it's the interesting aspect of being a human being, to see the different preferences, different people, different expressions, different ways, and yeah, and hopefully one day there's enough space on this world where we can just all be ourselves without getting beat up because of it. Um, but yeah, we're in beautiful times right now with great shifts happening and upgrade after upgrade,
Yeah.
so to say. Yeah.
I think that's an important distinction that you've made between doing what we've been scripted to do and doing what we're supposed to do. How do you think we tell the difference?
Well, for me, it goes back to how your body feels. If you're, I can't, of course, speak for everyone on this planet, so bear with me, but um, I can feel the difference but just within my physical self, when something it is that works for me, or if what it's supposed to be done. So um, it becomes so much easier to follow what is that aligns with your body. But it's a process to learn. It's not like you wake up one day and like, oh, you can suddenly feel your body, because I know my husband. I don't know if you have that experience as well, because you grew up in the same neighborhood here in Scotland.
Yeah.
Especially for men, there's disconnects, just the mind and the body, but we don't, you don't go further than here. And I know for him, just to be able just to learn how to basically just listen to what your body has to say. If it's sore, you have a choice: do you deal with it or not? That's of course completely your decision. But it's our bodies are so knowledgeable. They're so filled with wisdom and guidance, and if you learn how to tap into that with the mind and let soul lead, let your heart lead, let your intuition lead, and then you have your mind to back it up, because your mind is handy to use.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, there's a different process, I find, than if you make mind decisions, the pros and the cons of the things you should do, and is that a good idea or it's not, versus to, does it feel right? Does it make me feel excited? Does it give me the freedom I want? Does it make me want to go do it again? Does it, there's a difference, and you probably have experienced some of it for, I don't know, sports you play or programs you watch, that you just feel the difference after either activity or during. But then usually when we're done, back into the head. And what I just teach is that we stay in the body and work with the body. And because, like I said, there's so much information you can just get from how you're feeling, how you're breathing, how you're sitting, how you're holding your hands, how you're, I don't know, interacting with other people. Because if you start barking at people, it may be time for a break, for example. So they're big signs, but they're also small signs and just nuances, and it is something to learn. But I do think it's very valuable just to start listening to your body, and the more you ignore it, often when I do work with clients, that there's suddenly a big health issue that started like 10 years ago. Yeah, why didn't you deal with it? Yeah, I didn't make time for it. Was busy. Sure. So let's deal with it now, 10 years later. And then it becomes a massive thing, of course. So it's that feeling of learning how to recognize what your body is telling you in the decision making progress. And based on how your body is feeling, that's when you with your head can make the decision. Does that feel right? Does that feel exciting? Does it look right? Is it just plain out fun? And does it, give me any money if you're talking about your business or something? Yeah, and I think that's the difference, is the way it feels in your body. I just hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no,
okay, good.
I do, absolutely.
Otherwise, I keep talking. Good.
We've been talking about this body-mind connection a couple times during this discussion, and with my kind of I say like my personal chips on the table, talking about gluten and the relationship the gluten has on our gut and the relationship the gut has on our brain. It's funny that we're talking about this. My very first business incarnation, the first business that I was going to do, and I had a partner with it, was we're actually going to focus on this type of stuff, the sort of body-mind connection and a lot of gut health. And this was something that I'd researched personally, finding out my own intolerances. Shall we speak a little bit more about how all of this plays into being? And people might be listening to this and going, flipping hell, she took some magnesium and stopped eating gluten and suddenly her PTSD disappeared. You might be thinking like, that just sounds so plausible. Can we?
She's cuckoo.
Yeah. Can we discuss a little bit more about how all of these mechanisms sort of interplay with each other?
Well, you probably know a bit more to the details on that one. So if you could elaborate what you've done in your business then previously.
So
tell us more.
They're just kind of finding out that now you'll be able to correct me on this. I believe there is a nerve that directly links the brain and the gut, and they send neurochemicals between the two. And if you look at our neurochemical serotonin is what antidepressants operate on. That's how antidepressants work, is not raising your serotonin levels, but causing you to lose less serotonin. And actually, 95% of your serotonin neurons are actually in your gut and not in your brain. So if something is going wrong in the gut, you're inflamed, you've got leaky gut, you've got intolerances where you're creating some kind of immune response in your gut, you're potentially affecting these neurons, and you're potentially affecting this mind-body connection. How am I doing so far?
Keep going.
Fun fact about the gut. The human gut has more neurons than a cat's brain. And so scientists are starting to refer to it.
I can see how that's essential information for our viewers. No, it's exactly what you say. It's food and drink and whatever you take in, what you put on your skin, like with creams or shampoos, or it all gets absorbed in our bodies. And of course we do have our filtering systems like the liver and kidneys But through my experience, I do believe I would like to make it as easy on my organs as possible. So that's why, for me, the food, of course, with the allergies, became such a major thing in just the healing process. Because I don't know how many hours I would have spent in therapy if I never addressed my allergies and the food and just the shortness that my cells had. Because you can endlessly talk about your traumas, but it's not gonna fix it. I can't change what happened. I can't change what I remember. I can't change what I went through. I can't do anything about it. What I can do is, one, how I look at it, what I take from it, what I do with it. And I think that the last 70 years have proven quite, rewarding in that regard. And I know often people, that if you've never heard about the connection between food and mental health, and you're listening to this, you might go, "What now?" So I can understand where you're coming from, but take it from me, from someone who, I was 6 when they tested me as hyperallergenic, so I was allergic to every substance they tested me on, and the
Wow.
doctors went, "Don't know what to do with that." Which I now, of course, know that because of the gluten intolerance, you get your body inflamed, and because then your body's inflamed, they test the false positive for everything else.
Right. Okay.
Now that makes sense. It's really logical, right? But yeah, I've seen it with children as well, and my own is, with cow's milk. If they have constant ear infections, when you cut out the cow's milk, the ear infection clears. Don't tell me how to explain it, but I've seen it over and over again with parents around me, and it's just fascinating when you start to think about it, how the body is, one, always trying to find the best positive balance there is for you. So listen to this, just love your body, love every organ, thank it every night if you have to, but they're doing their absolute best for you today. But there are things we can do to support that. And that's, one, eating what your body needs and not what your belief systems think it needs. And there's a difference. And that's where your body comes in. Because if you're eating food and you just completely crash afterwards, I always thought when I was younger that was normal. That you eat food, that your stomach aches. For me, that was normal. That you're constantly throwing up when you eat food that contains soy. Yeah, for me, that was normal. So it's time, if you're ready and you want to start thinking that those things you call normal, are they really normal? Or are you just accepting things because you don't know how or what to do with it? And just being open to that experience, to learning more, answers will starting to drop in. You will coincidentally find a book, or you will get even Facebook target marketing. They tend to pick up on those thoughts. I don't know how they do it, but you always have to.
Facebook knows everything.
Yeah, they suddenly have an advert of like clean eating, heal your gut, heal your IBS. Check out this new course or something. I don't know, but you get my point. It's fascinating when you're open to making those changes, and not from I've had enough, everything sucks, no one loves me, and that kind of point, but just really come to yourself, come to your heart, and just really like, I'm accepting the way it is, but I'm also ready for other stuff, new stuff to come in. and
Yeah, I
that's
remember.
massive. Yeah.
I remember when I did my sort of like round of elimination. I eliminated, well, not just gluten. I actually eliminated grains, full stop. Grains, dairy, and alcohol. And when I did that, there was a period of about 4 weeks, and I honestly felt like high. Like I felt like I'd had 4 cups of coffee, but I just felt like that all of the time. And I was thinking, wow, this is great, this is amazing. And then what I realized was actually, no, this is normal. This is when you have normal levels of concentration, normal levels of energy, normal
Yeah.
sleep. This is
Yeah.
actually just
Yeah.
normal, and you've been impaired for so long
Mm.
because these are things that you're intolerant to, and your body doesn't like anything more than very small
Yeah.
amounts of.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. But most people have no idea how good we're designed to feel.
Yeah.
And it's not until you start exploring what works or what doesn't work for you, you will know what we're talking about. It seems really unrealistic when you haven't explored this side of yourself yet. But once you do, you will message you back saying, "I listened to your podcast a few months ago, and you were right." Yeah. So it's yeah, it's an experience, and if yeah someone's listening and curious, then yeah, they highly recommend it.
Mhm.
So,
What are some of the signs that people can pick up on that they might have any kind of intolerance, not just the ones we've been speaking about?
mm. Well, I don't know how your gluten intolerance played out, but for me, it was I get joint pain, back pain mostly, but also like in the shoulders, neck kind of thing. I have the sleep. It just for some reason grains just really makes my head in overdrive. Well, soy, like I said, is just throwing up if you're constantly throwing up when you eat a certain food. And for gluten, just in general, my belly swells up, as in I look like 8 months pregnant, kind of thing.
That's what I get.
Yeah. So I started having that when I was around 8. Because I remember when we had school swimming at the time, everyone was like, "Oh, you look pregnant," you know. That was really funny, but not at this point anymore. But someone, "Oh, congratulations!" No, I just have a sore tummy. Leave me alone. It gets a bit inappropriate at a certain age. But yeah, they're small things, and it all depends on tolerance and how you're feeling. And for me, of course, because of the way I take care of myself now and I listen, I'd also go to chiropractor appointments, and I get massages, and yeah, there just like a whole bunch of things I do just to make sure I'm in alignment with, well, myself within my body, and of course also with life on the outside. But it requires commitment, and also for most people, time to be quiet. Meditation, walks in the park by yourself, go to the forest. Just the time just to be with you and your soul, your spirit, your person, however you relate in the wording. As if one of the diseases I believe we have in nowadays is that we're always too busy. We're always busy. No, I can't do that. I'm too busy. And if you're always too busy to do the important stuff, then what's really going on? What are you running away from? And um, for the for anyone who looked into my bio before we started, I am became a best-selling author in January, and then in the book Leaders, the women who changed the world through their businesses, and in my chapter, that because it's a co-author project, I refer to this whole journey and the intuition and that kind of stuff to the Pink song, um, where she sings, "The silence scares me because it screams the truth." And I think many of us, myself included, because I was a period in my life I quit my job to live with my current partner at the time. I remember watching 6 weeks of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel marathon just because I was so freaked out by the fact there was silence and nothing to do, and I didn't even have homework. It was just too much to cope just by the fact I had nothing to do. So I've been there. I know what I'm talking about, and it is sometimes really scary just to be alone with their own thoughts, especially if you're always just busy, 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 busy. It may not be pretty, the stuff that comes up, and it's once we allow the crazy, oh my god, the world is gonna end kind of thoughts to clear, is when you start to connect with the real you, the soul you, the personality you, however you want to call it. And that's where you get your guidance from. But it's you need to take time just to be you, right? It sounds so simple, but most of us don't do it. Most of us don't do it. We're always busy. We're always doing stuff. We're always running away from something. But when we actually slow down and listen and cut away any unnecessary bullshit that doesn't belong in our life anyway, and then start creating, start doing stuff, start going for business opportunities, that's when things really speed up by you actually doing far, far less. And that's always so fascinating to witness with my clients, is when they actually slow down, life goes faster. But in a gentle way, not the kind of like roller coaster kind of way. Yeah.
It's funny that we have moved on to talk about busyness, because I think at the moment, for a lot of people, the busyness has finally been taken out of their lives, and they've found a lot of stillness and time to be for themselves, which is maybe a different problem
Scary, very
to the
scary.
to the busyness. I'd like to talk about the coronavirus situation just now and put some of these things into the current context. This is a bit of a kind of, there's a personal orientation to this first question, is how is coronavirus affecting you up there in Aberdeen? Because Aberdeen is where I am from, so I'd quite like to know how my home is doing, and how are you doing in this current situation?
Well, for me personally, not so much. It's the way I set up my life, my business. I like to be busy, but I also like to have the time for myself, because that's just the two aspects of me. So I have my online business, so my clients are online. I can still call. My babysitter is in self-isolation, so I can't work as much. We even had to move this appointment and stuff like that. No, my husband is a field service engineer. He's one of the, what you call it, key workers, so he's still doing his job as normal. It's just my daughter's dance class has been cancelled. So yeah. I mean, we usually just nip to the shop once in a while. My husband now does it by himself on his way back from work or to work. And that for me, that's it. That's literally all it affected me. But that's just the way I set up my life, because that works for me, obviously. But I do notice a lot more people are going online, as in podcast opportunities, speaking opportunities. So just this month I have 10 interviews like this already booked in. So I love talking. So for me, this is like a brilliant time of just talking about my story and things I went through, and hopefully inspiring others to do the same. But what I am and what I do with my business, I work a lot with intuition and also reading between the lines. I'm really good at feeling other people's energies, bodies, situations. You can label it all you want, but I'm just really good at picking up on the vibrations because I'm so attuned with my body. I just notice what's mine and what's not. And I do notice, of course, that people are panicking there, and if I would allow it in, again, my body feels like it feels really icky and stressful and ill and but yeah, that's part of this whole journey of learning how to know who you are and how you feel. But you start learning the differences between other people's energies as well. So with things like this, or like a more relatable event like a New Year's Eve and everyone is celebrating, that's all the energies I feel and notice as well normally. But it's fascinating to see how people respond differently. It's either complete fear or maybe not, maybe sometimes, or other people like in business, they just pivot and keep going and keep helping people. And yeah. With my love for people, I just love to see all the differences and the aspects and everything. So for me, this is like the most brilliant time to be alive. Obviously, with the people that are affected, they are included in my praise at night because I do realize it's not as sunny, rosy for everyone, and I'm wholeheartedly aware of that. But I don't think I can get sick enough or upset enough to help other people. So it's not something I choose to do with my energy. It's like the example, you can't get poor enough to help poor people. It's easier to help poor people if you have money to spend and to invest, kind of thing. So if I want to help other people in their business, in the intuition, learn how to read the signals of their bodies, I need to stay connected with me. And I have wholehearted respect for everything that's going on for me and everyone's struggles and opinions and visions and desires, but it's outside of me. And that's okay too. It's allowed to be there. Everyone is allowed to have their own version of their experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Suzanne, do you have any insight into how people can get through and overcome the current situation?
Well, it all depends where you're at. Of course, if you're talking about someone who's in the hospital because they're that ill, I'm not sure if I'm qualified to speak on that regard. But generally speaking, I think there's a lot of fear, also post on media, social media as well. So if you're really sensitive and get fearful around the situation, you need to protect yourself from the constant triggers. And it's not playing ignorant and I don't know, go around and ignore the government's advice. But if Facebook is too much right now because every single post you scroll down is like Corona this, Corona that, just turn it off. Go dance in the garden. you know, go play with your kids. Go, I don't know. I found a YouTube channel. I'm learning how to paint at the moment. It's
Nice.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can get things delivered safely. If you need more paint and stuff like that. But yeah, protect your energy and just be aware. I think it's keep yourself safe, to do what the government recommends. Take care of yourself food-wise where you can, because everyone in the UK has probably experiences some shortness with the food, especially with us with the allergies. I don't know how your food shopping went, but I had this slight freak out last week when I suddenly couldn't get my gluten-free organic, gluten intolerance stuff. I suddenly became a risk group. I was thinking, okay, wow, that's not the label I was ready to mention, but it's. I think everyone just needs to try to take care of them, to make sure they are okay first, and then connect with the other people. I think we should do that regardless, but especially now when the energy, the air is just tense. Everywhere you go, it's either like dead quiet, or it's, you can just feel there's something in the air. So yeah, just take care of you. Make sure you eat what you can, nutritious wise. If you're panic eating because you're so stressed, try to find a way to substitute it, even if it's just herbal teas with some music and something less destructive. And forgive yourself if you don't manage. Forgive, because it's an intense time. It's like I said earlier, it's okay not to have all your shit together. And this is weird. It's weird. I'm home with 2 kids. My husband, like I said, is still away mostly. He can't go anywhere. It's just weird. And if you're not managing, if you're not coping, that's okay. It really is. But you will be okay. Just make sure you stay safe. And, talk to yourself. What do I need? What do I want? What can I do right now? Even if it's just, crack a window, get some fresh air, get some clean sheets on your bed, drink an extra glass of water. Basics. Back to basics.
Yeah.
Back to basics. And once this is all over, in hopefully a few weeks, maybe a few months, but I have a feeling we're talking weeks, not months, but we'll see. When we're moving forward again, what are we bringing forward? What do you want to bring forward with this period where we're forced to slow down, forced to be still, forced to be cut off from each other? Are you still going to be too busy to meet up with your friends and family? Are you still going to be too busy to look after yourself? Are you still going to be too busy to do what makes your heart sing, your soul inspired? What you going to do once this is all over? Are you still going to accept that shitty job you really don't like? And I think that's what we can now think about. So instead of, oh my God, I'm stuck at home, I'm freaking out, just once this is all over, what's the fun stuff we're gonna do? Because the restaurant's gonna be fully booked once we're allowed to go out again. Because everyone is like, I want to go out for a meal. I don't want to be cooking the next month. Let's go shopping. Even my husband said, "Oh, I miss our monthly shop," and he really hates shopping. It's like I just once a month we do just go to the local farmers market and that kind of stuff. I don't like the busyness. It's because I feel so much and everything, but every once in a while it's fun. But he said last night, it's like, no, I miss it. So not that I'm gonna force him to go shopping for the rest of the year, but what do you want to do? Think about that. And that's the fun stuff, and you probably feel the difference in your body as well as we're talking about it. Go with that, because it's pretty darn clear right now what doesn't work and what does. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work for you, ignore me. That's fine. No hard feelings.
I think you've kind of touched upon it slightly already. Do you think there are any opportunities in the current situation?
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's like I said earlier, it's me. I always see the most beautiful things, even if it's dark. It's what makes me me. But it's um, it's so clear right now what doesn't work. I've got friends who, for example, just don't want to be home with their children and husband because their house is just too small. I get that. We just moved to a big house over Christmas, but the house of the flat we had before just didn't cut it. So make a list. Bigger house, more space, more free time. It's yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of ties in with that. It's like a magnifying glass. Everything is now under.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can look the other way. You can ignore it. It's like, I'm not gonna deal with that. Or you can just look, explore, see what you find. See what the goodness you can find. Because this situation is gonna be over at some point. It is. So then what? Then what?
Suzanne, I'd like to start bringing everything that we've discussed today to a close. I've got one question that I'm going to ask you first, and I think I know the answer roughly, but I want to hear your specific answer. As you said, half a lifetime ago, you said that you're going to give yourself another 17 years before you make a decision on life, and funnily enough, we are pretty much around that time now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the outcome of that choice? What decision are you going to be making about life now?
I'm definitely staying. It's crazy to think about from where I was 17 years ago to where I am now 17 years later. And it's of course the change didn't happen overnight. It's a whole process I just didn't wake up one morning and the PTSD was gone and everything was fine. But it's allowing yourself to also experience the good stuff. And I think many of us are conditioned, worried, however you want to call it, that when everything is good, we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Got a good marriage, got a business going well, kids are doing fine.
Global pandemic time.
Yeah, and that's usually when the self-sabotaging comes in. You maybe start overeating, you start barking at your partner, whatever the pattern is. And it's very liberating to start digging away those mindset to limitations, however you want to call them. Even now with all the work I've done, stuff still comes up. It's the one that for me is the most challenging one from the childhood is that no one cares. I know it's not true, and I started the last year. I'm starting to feel it's not true because there's a difference. But sometimes it's like, oh, nobody cares. Pops back in. It's like, oh, no. There you go. That's not true anymore. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. But I can also wholeheartedly understand when someone just has enough and does decide to end it. And my husband just buried one of his friends a few weeks ago because of this. So it's a topic I'm very passionate about, to bring the awareness on mental health and also what's possible, but also the understanding from my perspective is that how I just wanted to be over, and it wasn't because of the other people. It was just for me. And yeah, even now, and when everything's going on, there's still stigma around mental health, and it's getting better. But I do think there's still a long way to go. But it doesn't mean we're not gonna stop trying. Yeah, it's just an important topic, but I just want people to also know that there's hope. Again, there's hope. That it can change. You just need to make the decision for yourself. You're gonna explore your options. You don't need to fix it right away. You don't need to heal it right away. Just be open to the possibility to explore it. And that's such a small step, but it's such a significant pivot in your story, or at least that's what I found. I don't know if you have any experience in this for yourself, but
Yeah, I was just saying, I had an interview earlier on today, previous one on the podcast. For folks who are listening, you'll remember it well. And we were saying that one of the silver linings possibly to come out of this situation is we finally remove the stigma on mental health, or very much reduce it, because I think of any time in history, now is a time where people, I think, are accepting, yeah, it's okay to not be okay at the moment. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be down, depressed, frustrated, annoyed. There seems to be an acceptance, well, it's okay in this scenario. And maybe that just opens the door to it's okay in all scenarios, not just global pandemics.
Yeah, let's not put that out as the new normal. Now, what I truly hope in this regards is that, especially with work, of course, with my husband, I see it as well, is I moved from the Netherlands to the UK in 2013. So you can see cultural differences, things, it's just really clear, especially, yeah, basically just dives in blind kind of thing. So it's been made really clear. And what I found in the UK here specifically is that it still feels like very industrial mindset, as in we as a company own you. You can just show up, do as you're told, and that's it. And of course, now bosses needs to be flexible. They needed to allow you to work from home, what normally doesn't really is the norm in this country. You need to allow people to work part-time because they're still managing the children too, because the children are home from school too. You can't expect someone to work full-time and then manage the children and the elderly mother down the street as well, kind of thing. So what I'm hoping is that once all of this is done, employees can't go back and say, no, you can't work from home.
Yeah.
Because we just went through a whole pandemic. I said, what do you mean we can work from home? We just did it last week. No. That's not part of the company's policy.
Yeah.
The people are going to stand up for that. So what I'm hoping we'll see is that there's going to be more flexibility. There's going to be understanding. And most of all, there's going to be a balance between life for you as a person at home and work. Because we can't expect an employee, in my opinion, to work and function well if they can't spend enough time with their partners, families, friends, if they can't pay their bills, because that's a whole other discussion here with minimum wage and that kind of stuff. Ridiculous how it works here, but let's not go into that just now. But it's what I really truly hope is that there's gonna be true equality, as well as gender specific, or if you're non-gender, but just as a whole, but equality as well as in the home versus the job, where as a partner, if you have children yourself, my husband got I think 2 days for his work, and then the government gives you 1 or 2 weeks as well. Well, That's not enough. My husband drives 6 hours per day on average to go to a job back and forth. So that's 3 hours and 3 hours back. If he doesn't sleep at night because he has a newborn, how safe is that gonna be?
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't think that's okay. I really not. So the way we managed it, we moved around his overtime and his holidays. So he had like 6 weeks off, and he had to, get special permission from, I don't know, like the head of the company kind of thing. And he said, sure. So I'm guessing they had a newborn experience too. But those things, I really think there's gonna be a massive shift in awareness in how we are flexible with work and life and balance. And that's why I also said, what's working? What do you want to take forward? What can we leave behind? And if you have a boss that doesn't understand when you have a meeting and you need to pick up your children at 5 from daycare, and the meeting runs till 5:15, who's going to pick up your children? Yeah, not his problem or her problem. Stuff like that. I get the feeling that that's about to go changed. A lot of companies are gonna have to change the way they run their business just because people are not gonna take it anymore. If you can do it during the when we're in lockdown, you can do it when we're not working normally.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
that's what
it'll
I'm
be
thinking.
a brave new world when we
Mm-hmm.
come out the other side of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot will change, and a lot will fundamentally change as well. The very sort of funny, we were talking about rules earlier on, and I think the very rules that society follows
Mm-hmm.
and we expect are just going to be torn to shreds. I think that,
Something's gotta give.
yeah,
It just doesn't work anymore, and it hasn't worked for us for a long time. But I think this really gives us the opportunity to check in with ourselves and ask ourselves the hard questions. Because one, we have to because we don't have anything else to do, and two, I think it's time. I really think it's time to create that shift. And um, you know, because with things like with the NHS, that's now completely crippled with the staff, or at least that's what they tell us. I'm thinking, yeah, well, what if in the last 10 years they would have invested in the NHS? Would have this been a problem at all? No political party after this can ever say we're not going to invest in the NHS.
yeah,
They will not get votes. It's that simple. So it's gonna just create the whole atmosphere in the country's gonna change. How the way the people are gonna vote, the way we're gonna buy, the way we're gonna shop. If you have deliveries coming, everything is contactless now. If you have like a phobia for germs, this is great because
yeah,
there's so much opportunity changing. Of course, there's also a virus going on, so I can imagine you're slightly freaked out by that, but when things turn back to normal, you're not gonna tell me they're gonna go back to, oh, let's sign everything, because people are gonna go. But yeah, a few weeks ago I could get a deadly virus from that, and now I'm not going to touch it again.
mm-hmm.
So that's all gonna change, and all those small changes I think are gonna bring such massive positive change for all of us. And we just need to sit tight, hang on, take care of yourself, breathe, because a lot of us are holding our breath right now. And we'll see in a few weeks' time,
Yeah.
months maybe, but this will pass as well.
Mm-hmm. So far in our discussion today, I've been asking the questions largely, and I'd like to give the final question of this interview to you. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask our audience today, or do you feel there's a question the audience should be asking themselves today?
Yeah, I think I already briefly touched on that. I think if you managed to listen all the way to the end of this, it's because you definitely needed to hear what we had to talk about today. And It's time to connect with who you really are, what you're here to do, what you came here for, and what you're good at. What makes your heart sing? What are you so brilliant good at? Whether you get paid for it or not right now, just think about it and just sit still with it and start exploring what makes you happy. What sets your soul on fire? And it's just time to connect with you. It's time. So the question is, what do you want in the next months, years, for you, for your family, for your friends? What's the big vision you're dreaming about, or will start dreaming about after this question? But take time to dream. All the good stuff life has to offer, because trust me, from being suicidal, homeless, to where I am now, international best-selling author in multiple countries, and have my coach business and my friends and family all over the world. It sometimes feels weird to talk about the past just because it feels like a different lifetime. And if you're in a place right now where you're not as happy as you want to be, to put it lightly, just allow yourself to dream. You're all you got. It's time to go love yourself. It's time to connect with yourself, and God, you're worthy. You deserve it. It's just a homecoming process, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. For the audience who've been listening today, Suzanne, have made it to the end, as you said, and they've resonated with your story, your message, your work, and they want to find out a little bit more about who you are and what you do, where would you be directing people to go?
Well, you can reach me on multiple platforms, but I got 2 websites. One is my blog, one is just my information website. But as I'm Dutch, I pronounce my name as Suzanne. So it's SuzanneGrant.com is my blog, and I got the Grant method without a do, grandmethod.com as well. So make sure you spell my name correctly, because it's spelled the Dutch way. So if you start typing it with the Z, then you get a female soccer player that I don't know. So apparently she's really famous. I just don't know anything about football and stuff. So forgive me. It's so find it there, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm mostly active, because I work with professionals, entrepreneurs mainly. Feel free to connect with me, and if you resonate with my story, I always work with people for at least 90 days with my programs, just because it takes time to learn to recognize the signals your body tells you, your intuition, you've got intuition, gut response kind of thing. It's not something I can just explain in one session and go, off you go, good luck. Yeah. So if that's something you want to incorporate in your life, in your business, or if you're like CEO of a company and you resonate with that aspect of exploring that within yourself, then I'm the woman you've been praying for. So message me and we'll get you started. Absolutely.
I've been saying Suzanne. I should have really been saying Susanna.
It's okay.
Sorry, my Dutch is not as good as your English.
I try.
I'd like to thank you for coming on today. And I know it's a stereotype. We talk about Dutch bluntness, and I feel that you have been very forthright in this interview, but in a way that isn't how most people see bluntness, in terms of being kind of rude, but forthright in terms of just being really strong and really sure of the message that you're trying to convey, and ultimately the help that you're wanting to give to people. So I'd like to take the time to acknowledge that here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
To continue to help you through this isolation period, I've decided to open up my Ortholife Academy for free for the next 3 months. Ortholife is my online educational community where you can access training sessions, workshops, and question and answers, and connect with other people around the world who are going through this situation and trying to make the best of things. The Academy normally costs $27 a month to subscribe, but for the next 3 months I'm going to open that up for free. Essentially, you're getting a 3-month free trial of the platform. To access the Ortholife Academy, go to ortholife.org/academy, and when prompted, enter the code CORONA in block capitals. Yes, what else would the code be? CORONA in block capitals, and that will take your $27 subscription down to zero for the next 3 months. The Academy is where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my content during this difficult time. It's where I'm trying to bring people together to help and support each other as we go through this period of isolation, of fear, of uncertainty. I hope the Academy is something that will be able to help you too during this situation. So if you want to come in and join us, as I said, go to ortholife.org/academy, and when you sign up, enter the code CORONA, and that will give you 3 months for free. It's my gift to you to try and help and support during this time as best I can. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be, because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.